All right, so let's dive into this moment that really captivated the world.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's second inauguration back in 2025.
Wow.
Can you believe it's been 8 years since
Mm.
he last held office?
Crazy.
We're taking a deep dive into his full inauguration speech,
Okay.
thanks to City News's YouTube upload
Yeah.
to uncover the core themes and promises he laid out for
Right.
his second term.
Okay.
What kind of America did he envision, and
Yeah.
what does this speech tell us about his strategy?
Interesting.
Keep your ears peeled as we unpack this together and
Okay.
see what insights jump out at you.
So what's striking about this speech is that it's delivered under such a unique and intense set of circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
Trump's return after 8 years,
Hmm.
the already deeply divided political climate,
Right.
and even a mention of a recent assassination attempt.
Wow.
This all creates a powerful backdrop for understanding his message.
Absolutely. And he leans right into that intensity, doesn't he?
He does.
He labels this day Liberation Day,
Mm-hmm.
boldly claims the impossible is what we do best,
Right.
and even implies that his survival was destined to make America great again.
Wow.
It's classic Trump, using strong language to position himself as a figure almost chosen by fate to lead America.
Right.
But what's the problem he's supposedly been chosen to solve?
Well, that's where his portrayal of America in crisis comes in.
Okay.
He uses terms like crisis of trust, broken pillars of society,
Right.
and warns of catastrophic events abroad
Wow.
and a public health system that does not deliver.
Really?
It's a stark picture
Yeah.
aimed at evoking anxiety and a sense that drastic action is needed.
And it's not just abstract doom and gloom either.
No, it's not.
He cites concrete events like the hurricane in North Carolina, the fires ravaging Los Angeles, and even critiques how the government handled those disasters.
Right.
It's a clever tactic, right?
Very.
Grounding his message in relatable fears and frustrations.
Yes, it taps into that very human need
Yeah.
for security and stability
I see.
by highlighting these problems.
Right.
He sets the stage to present himself as the solution,
Uh-huh.
the strong leader who can fix what's broken.
It's almost like a political version of problem reaction solution.
It is. Yeah.
He's painting a picture of a nation in peril and then
Yeah.
positioning himself as the only one with the strength and vision to rescue it.
Exactly.
But this all leads to the big question.
Okay.
What's his plan?
Yeah.
What's the solution he's proposing?
That's where we get into the heart of his agenda for this second term.
Okay.
And it's announced with a flurry of executive orders and policy pronouncements.
Wow.
He uses phrases like, starting today,
Okay.
very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
I will sign a series of historic executive orders,
Mm-hmm.
creating a sense of urgency and decisive action.
So let's break it down.
Okay.
Immigration is first on the docket.
Right.
He declares a national emergency at the southern border and pledges to halt illegal entry with measures like reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy, deploying troops,
Right.
and even taking the drastic step of designating cartels as terrorist organizations.
Now, for those who might not be familiar,
Yeah.
the Remain in Mexico policy required asylum seekers to stay in Mexico
Okay.
while their cases were processed in the U.S.
Right.
This was a controversial policy during his first term,
Yeah.
and its revival signals a continuation of his hardline stance on immigration.
Uh-huh.
But designating cartels as terrorist organizations, that's a whole other level.
Right.
It raises questions about international law,
Mm.
potential military actions,
Wow.
and a host of potential unintended consequences.
It's definitely a bold move,
It is.
and one that will likely have ripple effects far beyond immigration policy.
Absolutely.
Speaking of bold pronouncements, he
Yeah.
also declared a national energy emergency.
Right.
Remember drill, baby, drill from his first term?
Yeah.
Well, it's back. Along with promises to dismantle the Green New Deal
Oh,
and
wow.
revoke mandates for electric vehicles.
This is a clear signal that he intends to prioritize fossil fuels
Mhm.
and reduce what he sees as burdensome environmental regulations.
Right.
This is sure to be a contentious issue
Yeah.
with implications for climate change,
Yeah.
the energy sector,
Yeah.
and the future of transportation.
Yeah.
Remember, the Green New Deal was a sweeping proposal
Yeah.
to address climate change and transition to renewable energy sources.
And then there's the economy. He outlines plans for a major overhaul of trade,
Right.
using tariffs to enrich our citizens, and the creation of a new Department of Government Efficiency.
Wow.
He also vowed to end government censorship,
Okay.
bring back free speech to America, and reinstate service members expelled for refusing the COVID vaccine mandate.
These pronouncements tap into a range of concerns,
Yeah.
from economic anxiety to perceived threats to free speech,
Right.
and they align with his populist message of empowering the everyday American
Mm-hmm.
against what he portrays as a corrupt and overreaching establishment.
So we're seeing a pattern here, right?
We are.
He's connecting seemingly disparate issues like immigration, energy,
Yeah.
free speech,
Right.
and the economy back to this overarching narrative of a nation in crisis.
Exactly. He's positioning himself as the champion of those who feel forgotten or left behind, promising to restore America to its former glory.
It's a powerful narrative,
It is.
and one that clearly resonated with enough voters to secure him a second term.
Absolutely.
But before we jump to conclusions,
Yeah.
let's zoom out a bit
Okay.
and consider some of the broader themes running through this speech.
Okay.
What's the overarching vision he's laying out for America?
Sure. One of the most prominent themes is this idea of restoring American strength and dominance on the world stage.
Yeah.
He uses powerful language, talking about reclaiming our rightful place and inspiring awe and admiration around the globe.
Wow.
It's a very assertive, almost nationalistic tone.
It definitely evokes a sense of America first, doesn't it?
It does.
And it ties into another recurring theme,
Yeah.
reversing perceived betrayals and injustices.
Right. He speaks passionately about a horrible betrayal
Yeah.
and vows to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom.
Wow.
This is classic populist rhetoric,
Okay.
framing himself as the champion of the people against a corrupt and out-of-touch elite.
So it's about reclaiming power, but it's also about reclaiming values.
Yeah.
He calls for a society that is colorblind and merit-based,
Right.
and states unequivocally that there are only two genders, male and female.
Mm-hmm.
These statements clearly resonate with his conservative base
Yeah.
and tap into anxieties about social change and shifting cultural norms.
Right. And underpinning all of this is a deeply ingrained belief in American exceptionalism and what he calls our manifest destiny.
Right.
Think back to his language about the 4 greatest years in American history and pushing our manifest destiny into the stars. He even talks about planting the American flag on Mars.
Wow.
This vision of America as a nation destined for greatness is a powerful motivator for his supporters.
It's interesting, though, because you have these grand pronouncements about American strength and destiny,
Yeah.
but also a lot of focus on internal divisions and perceived threats.
Right.
It creates this almost paradoxical sense of a nation that's simultaneously powerful and vulnerable.
That's a really astute observation.
Thanks.
It's a delicate balancing act,
Right.
and it speaks to the complexities of his appeal.
Yeah.
He's tapping into both a yearning for a return to past glory and a fear of losing that perceived greatness.
Okay, so we've identified some of the big themes and the emotional appeals at play. But let's get back to those crucial questions we raised earlier. How does all of this rhetoric translate into concrete action?
Right. Yeah.
What are the potential implications, both positive and negative?
Well, that's where things get tricky.
Okay.
He's laid out a bold agenda, but the details on implementation are often vague. For example, he talks about using tariffs to enrich our citizens.
Right. Yeah.
But what about the potential for trade wars or retaliation from other countries?
Yeah.
How will those economic consequences ripple through American society?
And what about his energy policies?
Okay.
He's all for drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
What does that mean for the environment and our efforts to combat climate change?
Right.
How will a shift away from renewable energy impact industries and jobs?
And let's not forget his social pronouncements.
Right.
He calls for unity, but some of his statements could further inflame existing divisions.
Yeah.
How will his policies on immigration and social issues affect different communities and demographics?
It's a lot to unpack. And I think that's what makes this speech so compelling.
Yeah.
It's a bold declaration of intent,
Right.
a roadmap for a radically different America, but it's also a document riddled with unknowns and potential pitfalls.
Exactly. And it's our job as engaged citizens to grapple with those unknowns, to ask tough questions, consider different perspectives, and think critically about the potential consequences of this vision for America.
Because ultimately, this speech isn't just about Donald Trump.
No, it's not.
It's about the future we're all creating together.
He calls this the start of the 4 greatest years in American history.
Right.
But what do you think that vision looks like? What are the potential challenges and opportunities that lie ahead?
These are questions worth pondering, and I have a feeling we'll be unpacking them for quite some time to come.
I think so, too.
This deep dive is just the beginning. As you continue to reflect on this speech, what stands out to you?
Yeah.
What resonates? What concerns you? Yeah.
And what do you think the long-term implications of this vision might be?
Remember, it's not just about one man or one speech. It's about the future we're all shaping together.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
This picture of America reclaiming its place on the world stage.
Right.
A nation of unmatched power and influence.
Yeah.
Yet he also spends a significant amount of time.
He does.
Highlighting internal struggles and threats, both real and perceived.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's saying America is both incredibly strong and surprisingly fragile at the same time.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It speaks to the power of his rhetoric, you know?
Right.
He blends a forward-looking vision with a strong dose of nostalgia, appealing to both our hopes for the future and our anxieties about the present.
Right.
He talks about reaching for the stars, about American exceptionalism and manifest destiny.
Right.
But he also invokes this yearning for a simpler time.
Yeah.
A time when America was, in his view,
unquestionably great.
And let's not forget the sheer volume of pronouncements he packs into this single speech.
I know, right?
We've got national emergencies, executive orders, the creation of new departments, sweeping policy reversals, all delivered with that trademark sense of urgency and action.
It's a lot.
It can feel almost overwhelming, like drinking from a fire hose of pronouncements.
That's a deliberate strategy, I think.
Oh, really?
By creating this whirlwind of activity, this sense of constant motion.
Yeah.
He projects an image of a leader who is decisive.
Okay.
Who is unafraid to shake things up.
Right.
Who gets things done.
It's definitely a speech designed to grab headlines.
It is.
To energize his base and to put his opponents on the defensive.
Yeah.
But as we've discussed, it also raises a lot of questions that go unanswered.
So many.
How will all of this be implemented?
Right.
What will be the true cost?
Yeah.
Not just in terms of dollars and cents, but in terms of social cohesion and our standing in the world.
Exactly. And that's where the real work begins.
Correct.
For us as citizens, you can't just passively consume this information.
Right.
We have to engage with it, to wrestle with the implications, to consider the unintended consequences, both positive and negative.
Okay.
He might be the one giving the speech,
right?
But the future he's outlining will be shaped by all of us.
It's like he's thrown down a gauntlet.
He has.
Challenging both his supporters and his critics to step up and participate in the shaping of this new America.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
okay,
I want to leave you with a few final thoughts to ponder.
Right.
What stood out to you most in this speech?
Yeah.
What resonated with your own hopes and fears for the future? And perhaps most importantly, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
How will you engage with this unfolding story of America?
Because ultimately, this isn't just about one man or one speech. This is about the future we're all creating together.
He might call this the start of the 4 greatest years in American history.
Yeah.
But whether that prediction comes true is largely up to us.
So keep those thinking caps on.
Right.
Stay curious.
Yeah.
And remember, informed citizens are the bedrock of a healthy democracy.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning,
and
keep the conversation going.